All right, everyone. I want to talk about something that's been on my mind lately. And it's not just a good little dog. It's not just a beautiful little beauty. Um so I noticed something in myself recently as I was following um some kind of juicy internet drama du jour, the internet drama of the day, if you will. Sounds good. I'll have that. So I was watching the CoffeeZilla Logan Paul stuff. I know, little bear. You want rubs all the time? Me too. I was watching the CoffeeZilla Logan Paul stuff, with him getting exposed for his scam. Watching some of the Andrew Tate stuff. And then been watching the Elon Twitter stuff. And Kanye before that. A lot of these things have a kind of dumpster fire sort of appeal. That if you like drama, which I do, then it's hard to ignore the allure of this kind of stuff. But it really got me thinking. In a world today that is so full of distractions, what is it like to try to be in people's faces, in their consciousness, in the conversation all the time? And then, I guess Trump seemed to have kind of ushered in a new era of this. But let's just shelf Trump for a second. He's just too. But the Logan Paul is interesting because I remember a conversation I had with a friend a while back where it was a debate where we were basically on two sides of him going, well, Logan Paul has kind of mastered the art of going viral, and that's a skill. And I was like, yeah, but just going viral, like that's just a skill. Like, it's one thing if you get famous because you're Eddie Van Halen and you're known and a star or something, but it's because you're sick of guitar. Or even if you're an entertainer, you're, Britney Spears and you're known because you have a hit song and dance routines and stuff. But to just go viral, like that's the skill. And yet it is kind of the ultimate modern form of entertainer. And you watched Kanye even kind of leave behind his music and even to some extent leave behind fashion, where it's now just about being in the news. Even Elon Musk has kind of like dragged Tesla down with this, like, hey, I'm just going to be this guy in the news cycle all the time, no matter what. Logan Paul, too. I think it was like 5 years ago, people were saying that he got in trouble for that, being in Japan in the suicide forest. But that's just more like, hey, like I'm built to go viral. Here's a way to go viral. And even though he got punished for it and had to apologize, whatever, it still made waves. It still worked. So we're in this kind of interesting situation now where people being desirous of the spotlight all the time, like just for the sake of it. Like, what does it do? What is the bill that comes due for that? Like, Logan Paul got busted for scamming people with his crypto zoo project where he took a bunch of people's money, and it was clear that the project was kind of dead in the water until CoffeeZilla exposed him. But even though Logan got busted and feels bad and is trying to figure out what to do, it still all works. Like he's still in the conversation. It's a version of there's no such thing as bad press. But even the 24-hour news cycle seems tame compared to online where it can just be something, something, something. And I just wonder, like what is the, like if this stuff gets clicks, which ultimately turns into value, money of some sort, unless you get completely sunk, which it does seem like happened to Kanye or Tate for now or whatever. I just wonder, what is the incentive structure that is set up for influencers, for people that just want to be seen a lot, that want to be experienced a lot? Because there's always going to be people that want attention, and especially when there's fame and money involved in that. But we're not talking about just like, it's one thing to just scam people and get busted. That's as old as time. But the ability to just have your kind of like face and name in the discussion and to have that just be incessantly available, that feels new. And it seems like the people that kind of get in that game, like who comes out the other side good? Right? Like who is this really benefiting? And if you're someone like me that enjoys drama, it's easy to get just like sucked up in this. And it's almost like a much less bad version of the same phenomenon that we face with like school shooters, where they're doing something so bad, something so sinister and evil, knowing that the news will cover this, that their name will get put out there, that maybe their story or their manifesto or whatever will get put into circulation. It seems like with this Brian Kohlberger guy, that he idolized Ted Bundy. And so in a society that, like, to what extent are we all guilty? To what extent, to watch the true crime industry go into overdrive for this Kohlberger thing. Like, they could all say he's the worst guy. Look at how evil this guy is. But, man, a whole machine just gets fired up. And Natural Born Killers kind of covered this a while ago in the 90s in a cool way. Tarantino script, Oliver Stone directed. You know, these are two American filmmakers that get our love of violence and shock, but they're putting that into movies. That's one thing. But this, it's all blurred now. It's like that appeal of being seen and being talked about and being discussed. The incentive structures are clearly off. And, you know, I've heard some people say, well, don't say the killer's name. Don't say the school shooter's name or something like that. But what is it? Then we just pretend they kind of don't exist, or they're just this faceless, like if they're from our society, then they're like one of us. So we're in this weird pickle. And I just kind of wonder what's the fix here? Is this just inevitable? Like, to go from reality TV, where Trump excelled, to then the president kind of blurring the lines with being like a reality TV president that the news was like, what a piece of shit. But who loved Trump more than secretly than the news organizations getting record ratings? Their businesses, they were fucking eating it up. What better than to just stoke these flames and get their viewers all, fucking Trump, goddamn this, show me the next. You know, it was like that old trailer for Howard Stern Private Parts, where like the average listener listens for like 1 hour and 40 minutes, and the average Howard Stern hater, 2 hours and 78 minutes, or, you know, like that, the idea that the hater is more invested. They listen even longer. They're going to get even more pissed off. Hi, boo-boo. Even more pissed off with like whatever the guy has to say. So, you know, it's easy to, America obviously loves to build up a star and watch them crumble. America loves that. And to some extent loves a comeback story also. You know, Robert Downey Jr. kind of, look at his second act where he's clean and he's a superstar. But there's something really interesting with this. There's a new breed of star that is able to capture a lot of collective attention, like day after day after day. And even when they're getting kind of raked over the coals, they still are being rewarded with the attention that they set out to get. And then, of course, maybe it comes with the monetary perks and fame perks, whatever. But it's tapping into something really deep in all of us. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there that don't give a shit about this kind of stuff. There may be plenty of people that come across this that have no idea what I'm talking about. And we do live in a very kind of siloed and divided time. So I acknowledge that these things are maybe big in some worlds and completely non-existent in others. But the Trump and the Kanye stuff, these are as big of names and stories as kind of exist on the world stage right now. So let's not pretend this is fringe. The Logan Paul stuff or whatever, Andrew Tate, maybe not so much, or like a tier or two below. But the Elon stuff, the Kanye stuff, the Trump stuff, what in our kind of like Jungian shadow side is feeding this, likes this? What do I enjoy about this circus? What aspect of Gladiator where we're like with the thumbs up, thumbs down, like what aspect of our own shadow desires are these figures filling? And to what extent do we feel morally superior to them? Oh, look at this piece of shit. Fuck this guy. Now, that may even be true, but we're all existing together. And to just other the people doing this, like they're not just, they can't exist without an audience. It's kind of the definition of what they are, is people with audiences. That includes people that love them, hate them, and a range of emotions in between. But all that attention is fueling this. It's not necessarily like a monster, but it has this gravitational pull. And I find it really fascinating. And it's no surprise that drama is popular. That's as old as storytelling, as old as time, as old as civilization. And it's no surprise that people like to watch the mighty fall to see their heads roll. That's right. Anyone who seems above you, oh, they're famous, they're rich or whatever like that, right? It's easy to fall into the Schadenfreude of their descent or something like that. So these are all classic. There's nothing new about any of this stuff. But the role it's serving in this modern social media driven society that's taken the 24-hour news cycle and even added a whole new level of social media onto this. I'm curious what role we're all playing and if the incentive structures can be changed. And it's easy to, in my mind now, I'm going, well, this is like somebody going, what about a newspaper that just had good news? What about a newspaper that just focused on, and which is a beautiful idea, and people have tried it, and I don't want to say it can't work, but it doesn't have the same appeal. And I just saw someone's meme. I think it was Lex Friedman, where it was like here are my good memories, and it was like writing them in the sand, and it was like me with my bad memories, and it was like getting like etched into stones. You could like never forget them. You know, like the good stuff just kind of comes and goes, and the bad stuff is etched in. Is that just human nature? Is there a way to change that incentive structure? Is there a desire to change that incentive structure? To what extent are we all complicit in these scams, in this schadenfreude of people's decline and we showed you and my team versus your team? Is there a way out of that? And it was so interesting because when the NFL player Damar Hamlin got injured not injured, I mean, it was like, practically died on the field with everybody watching. Horrific moment. And you could tell from watching the players that they were all really shaken up. And that all of a sudden, this big NFL game with this gladiator stadiums and $50 million contracts and all this stuff, it all looked really small, really fast, when true life and death in that moment came to the forefront. And not the kind of thing like, oh, you're shaving years off your life later. It was like immediate. And then, the NFL looked really bad trying to like get everyone to, all right, warm up and go play. They're still getting bad press for that. I think it's fair, as they should, but it was a pretty unprecedented situation. So, but that Damar Hamlin thing happens, and all of a sudden, it's the opposite of the Logan Paul, of the Kanye, of the Trump. Instead of division, it's everyone's donating to his charity. Everyone's sending him prayers and praying together. Religions, age, race, whatever, all that stuff irrelevant. People are truly coming together across teams, sports, cultures, cities, and in this sort of a tragedy, are uniting, are sharing resources, love, prayers, support. They're all pulling for each other. Like there's so much of this outpouring of love. And I would argue that the best version of America I've ever lived in was in that window of time. I'm not sure exactly how long it lasted. Let's just say it was a month. Could have been longer. Maybe it could have been a couple weeks. But right after 9/11, America was so unified. And firefighters and cops and first responders got more love and praise than I ever remember seeing, and were more selfless and acted so bravely. It was remarkable. And there's something from these tragedies that strike out of nowhere that call on the best of us to empathize and sympathize, to respect people that take risks, whether it's as a football player or a firefighter, to understand the tenuous nature of just being alive and being a human and how vulnerable we truly all are moment to moment. Like, do we need to simulate like tragedy to bring out like the same versions of us, the same people that are like, yeah, fuck you, Logan Paul, you sucker, are the same people that are like, oh, I hope Damar Hamlin's okay. Here's $100 for his toy drive. Like, it's in us to be either of these things. And it really seems to be more the situation and the spirit that calls out. Not that we don't have autonomy, but it's just such a stark contrast between those two. And I know I felt like that in my own personal life, where certain situations, maybe I feel lost and bored and self-destructive and self-loathing and angry and frustrated. And in other situations, I feel like, man, I feel like I'm really helping people and I'm helping myself and I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm doing my best. And I don't think that I'm that different, but those situations really call on such a different part of me. And I just wonder, as a society, how do we set ourselves up? Like, I don't want tragedy, but it does seem like when things are too good, too easy, that we turn into that, like, watch it all burn kind of tear people down Schadenfreude version. Or at least I do. I'll just speak for myself here. I don't know about everybody else. I'm kind of guessing, but I do have some sense of it. Could be wrong. But it's just so curious, like watching these events and watching what is brought out of us. And I know that for me, curating what I absorb, my favorite movie is Being There, and the last quote, the last line of it, the quote is that life is a state of mind. And the state of mind present when somebody's busted scamming and fuck them versus when somebody's life is on the line and, oh my God, I hope they're okay. That was so scary. Like, call someone and tell them you love them. These situations encourage different states of mind. And I guess maybe being ultimately enlightened and at peace with the world would be that those situations didn't have any impact. They all contained the same level of holiness. And that maybe is a beautiful aspiration. In the meantime, in day-to-day society, it does seem like these situations call on different parts of us. And I guess my question is, how do we take that knowledge or that observation and incentivize the ways that brings out the very best of us, that sees the way we want to work together, the way we respect each other, the way we value the gift of life? And I truly am living in this as a question. I'm curious of what the answer might be. Or if you have any thoughts, please put it in the comments. Create your own video. Write your own treatise about it, whatever it is. But this is just something I kind of wanted to explore that I've been thinking about. And I thank you for taking this journey with me.